Welcome to the Real Life Artist Podcast. This is the show where we discuss the challenges that come with being an artist, as well as ways you can overcome those challenges through practical applications, shared experiences, and general discussions. My name is Luke, I'm your host, and today I'm joined by a special guest, Marcel. Why don't you say hey?
Nice, how are you doing? How you doing,
Good,
Luke?
good, thank you. Guys, if you are listening, you know the drill. Get your snack, your favorite beverage, or if you're just in your car going to work, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Glad you're here. Today's topic, generally, is why we push off our creative side. And we're going to just speak with Marcel, get some of his inputs. But yeah, let's get right into it. So, I've been doing this show this is the 10th episode. I think at this point, people sort of know who I am. Marcel, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I mean, you and I met at our company where we work, our day job. But yeah, like what do you do? I know you do engineering and stuff. Just curious about your creative journey.
Yeah, so initially my first thing that I really started getting to was writing. Probably around 8th grade, had English project where we just needed to do like a 1 minute long poetry session with our class and present it, which for like a public speaking practice thing with just how school works.
Yeah.
So I never liked public speaking, especially like at that age. I was just more nervous talking to people. But like I wrote down, I found that I love writing and I did it. Then after I was done, a lot of people said like mine was the best one and just like the applause with everything. So then it kind of started that open too, because I was also going through a lot at the time. So it kind of opened up an outlet for me to start writing, kind of just like letting out what's on my mind, because it's sometimes we don't always have people to talk to about stuff. Yeah. And even if somebody is there to talk to us, not like they fully understand what's going on.
Yeah.
So it feels like you're more just getting it out, but not really receiving any like help.
Yeah.
So went through that, and that was just like my outlet for me to get things out. Then slowly I wanted to start getting into music and everything, because I've always just loved more thoughtful music, like thought-provoking. What's this person really trying to say to me? What's this person thinking about?
Sure.
So going through that, and I mean, like we always need like our just party hype music. Like we just need those good times, but just like the more thoughtful, I just fell in love with it. So tried to imitate that. Then it slowly went through the Fort Hays Career Center downtown my junior and senior year.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Able to really dive into like the audio production side of everything. Then during that class, for one, I was producing, trying to make my own songs. Then I ended up doing a lot of ADR work and post-production during that class too, and I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
So I really just dove into the editing and engineering side of everything, the technical side of a lot of stuff that most people don't think about when they think about music or that's going through. Like obviously you have the main artist and the producer, but nobody really thinks or talks about like, wow, that engineer did a really good mix on that song. But when the engineer has a bad mix, everybody notices. Yeah. So it's kind of like wanting to put more recognition on that part too, because everybody knows when the engineer is bad, but nobody praises when the engineer is really good.
Yeah, it's so true. No one's like, man, that you can tell it's a warm vintage EQ. Like, wow, I really love that analog emulation right there. No, absolutely.
Exactly. And same thing, like that's why I really tried to dive into post for TV shows and movies and everything, and wanting to get on that aspect, because everybody watches TV shows, everybody has their favorite movie, everybody has just the things that are going on. And while like you're obviously there for the show, the plot of the movie, people aren't really thinking about all the people in the post credits that they show, because the second the movie's over, they're just getting up and leaving. Or for the few people that do stay, they can kind of see like, wow, it took this many people doing this many jobs to make what I love happen.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I mean, you have experience with the engineering side, the creative side, doing the poetry and stuff. Did you ever write like full-length songs because you said you did poetry and stuff? Did that manifest into full-length songs that you recorded, or?
I never wrote full-length songs.
Okay.
It was mostly just like, it would be like maybe a verse and a chorus, like if I did get that far, but then I would be hopping on to the next idea. Because like I said, at the point, it was mostly just like a creative outlet for me, instead of like, okay, let me make this into a full song. Yeah. Then by the time where I got to the point where I was like, okay, I gotta start making this into more songs, then I really started to work at where we work now, where it's the live sound aspect of everything. So having to learn all that.
Yeah, yeah. So you do live sound. I mean, I do too. At this point in time, Marcel and I work at the same place, so that's how we met. Um, yeah, that's awesome. So I've known you for like a year. I mean, I guess we've never really fully talked about. Have your interests over the this year or years shifted? Like, do you know what you want to do yet, or you're still in that discovery phase? Like as a long term goal.
I'm in a mix of both. I know I want to work in post production for some sort of for audio and film and TV and everything, but I don't know
Yeah.
exactly what that side of everything I want to do yet.
Okay.
But I'm really at this figuring everything out point. Like I'm still 19. I still have
Yeah.
time to figure out everything. And while I have, like I said, like my 2 years of schooling, my 2 years here, like I'm still 19. I still have a lot to learn and pick up, and still finding my own interest.
Yeah. And so what are some projects you've worked on other than your personal stuff? Have you done professional stuff yet, or you're working up to that?
I'm working up to that right
Okay.
now. I definitely was focusing on the live sound aspect of everything right now,
Yeah.
but I definitely want to start working into like my more professional stuff because I do have enough knowledge, and once I go to school here in the coming months, then
Yeah.
I'll feel more comfortable. Like, okay, I'm fully in working in my DAWs. I can start networking and working on that.
Yeah, that's the other thing, man. You're moving away for school.
Yeah.
I'm saddened by that, but it's a next step for you, a big next step.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, where are you going and what are you studying?
I'm going to Full Sail
Okay.
in Orlando, which I'm sure people that are just in audio or media or video games or video, everybody knows about it.
Yeah.
So I'm going down there to study recording arts and get my bachelor's down there. So I'm excited for it because the recording arts program, like I've toured down there when I graduated high school. Then I took time off to work, and now
Yeah.
I'm ready to go back into it and finish my degree and just get that next step in my life. Like it was definitely a nice pause to be able to do this. I've learned a lot, not just with like engineering, but also people skills and everything. Just
Sure.
growing up, like I was 17 when I graduated. I'm 19 now, so I feel more adulty.
Sure,
So
sure. As one would.
yeah.
During your studies, do you have a plan to like do you want to do an internship? Are you going to try to work professionally in this capacity? Or are you just gonna like pick up sort of a day job, or just focus full on your studies? I mean, are you gonna try to kind of get into this, do you think, while you're studying, or you don't know
Oh,
yet?
oh yeah, absolutely. So right now I'm kind of looking at maybe doing the same thing I'm doing right now, just down there.
Okay,
So trying to
fair
find out for
enough.
like a steady job. So I'm not once again trying to learn a new job, learn my degree. I'm moving
Yeah.
and just all
Flip
of
your
that.
life over.
Yeah, like I don't
Yeah.
want to have like a full flip 180 where everything's new, everything's changing. So I just want something that I'm comfortable, familiar with, so I can go ahead and go through that. So I want to find a full time job doing kind of a similar thing there. Then once I get down there, I want to start actually trying to network and get back in the studio and just
Yeah.
familiarizing myself with just working in DAWs. Like I'm Pro Tools user certified, but
Yeah.
I've barely been in Pro Tools since I've graduated because I've been focusing on live sound so much. So
Yeah. Yeah.
just sitting down, opening up, and even like just listening to my old stuff, just getting
Yeah.
re-inspired about the things I've made before and knowing what I know now. I know
Yeah.
I'm gonna listen back and be like, oh, that was not mixed the best, but
Man, yeah, I've done that to my stuff too. It's like
yeah,
you listen to it and you at the time you're like, this is probably the best mix ever. And you listen to it now and you're like, man, really?
yeah,
But yeah, that's crazy. So I mean you've been busy,
yeah, absolutely.
kind of catapulting off of that point. I mean, we've both been busy. I think I was really inspired by our conversation last week, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah,
Um about how we push creative things off. And I
absolutely.
don't know if that's because of, life or like we're busy. Well, like what's your interpretation of like why we push creative things off?
I think the biggest reason why we push creative things off is just not having confidence in ourselves. Like
Yeah.
I feel like what would happen too, because I know at least in my case, like for a lot of people that are in music and audio and film and when you make a video game or coding and all this stuff, like
Yeah.
I feel like as far as like the more media aspects of stuff, like when somebody says they want to be a lawyer or a doctor, everybody's fully supportive. But if somebody's like, "Hey, I want to learn
Music
music
production,
or
yeah.
like learn videography," like everybody knows, like there's the whole jokes that people will be like, "Oh, you're an art student. Oh, you're a film student. Oh, you're
Yeah.
this, that, and the other."
Or it's like
So
the effects of divorce, becoming a music producer.
yeah,
It's
like
like, yeah.
so just like the little running jokes. And the one thing that kind of sucks about that too is like I feel like a lot of people like undermine or think like a lot of us are just like dumb or don't know how the world works. Like we know we need to make money, we
Mhm.
know that we need to do all these things, but
Yeah.
what you're doing is kind of diminishing just our creative outlet. Like I said, a lot for
That's
me,
yeah.
it was like didn't know how to get out my emotions and my feelings and everything I was going through at the time, and just like a creative way to do that that I was able to dive into and put my focus in. So I'm sitting there like, yeah, I was working on music and doing all this stuff. Then you have people in your ear kind of diminishing that. So even if you weren't wanting to be a producer full time or be an artist full time, it can just pull you away from that creative side of you that you just made for maybe like an outlet or just something fun to do.
Yeah.
Because we all have our own hobbies. Like people love
Right.
sports,
Yeah.
music, whatever, but this could just be a hobby for us. But the second that you say, oh, I want to make music or I want to do this and the other, then you have your family, you have your friends, you
Yeah.
have just
Oh
society
my.
as a whole. You try to post your first 10-second whatever, just a sample that you've been working on, then you know the how just social media works. So you post
Yeah.
a little sample that you've been working on, then you'll know 50% of your comments will just be hate comments. Then
Yep.
maybe you'll have your grandma saying good job, but
Or just nothing at
or
all.
just nothing at all.
No one cares,
Yeah.
which is crazy. So I mean, yeah, friends, family, like you said, society, not really thinking this is a viable or a good career option when
Absolutely.
really media is like blowing up at its like largest rate
Absolutely.
right now. I
Oh,
mean, they need us, like
exactly. Like that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. Like people will always talk about like, oh, like what's my favorite song at this moment? Oh, did you see this new movie that came out? I know Dune 2
exactly.
just
Yeah.
came out, but
Yeah.
everybody's going to go see Dune. But then somebody's like, hey, I want to learn music and audio, as if somebody didn't work on music and audio to
To
create the
get there.
soundtrack
Yep.
for Dune, the movie that they're watching.
Exactly.
Or like everybody loves music. Music has always been a prominent thing in not just our society, but society as a whole. Like everybody knows that music has just always been prevalent and a huge thing, and it's more accessible now than ever. Because back then it was just like the Walkmans, or then going up to CDs. Then now we have streaming. So anybody
Exactly.
that
Yep.
has any sort of smart device, they can listen to a song at any point in time. YouTube's free. Spotify has their with ads. I don't know Apple Music what they're doing, but anyway, the point I'm saying is that music's so accessible and everybody's constantly listening to it. Everybody has their favorite artist. Everybody's going to see his concerts, and that's another thing too. Like everybody will love and praise their favorite artist, but can you imagine how Taylor Swift felt when she was first making music, or the people that were going on, people that
Yeah.
were in her ear? But now Taylor
Yeah.
Swift, whether you like it or not, it's the fact of the matter. She's one of the biggest artists ever.
Very influential. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely huge. Yeah, and that's crazy. It's a shame that, like you said, if we are going to have people who work up to that like Hollywood point, or like we're working on movies like Dune, then yeah, we've got to we got to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
And that's unfortunate that that's discouraged. I think a lot of it comes from, as you and I were discussing, probably like a place of love. Like, hey, I don't want you to like be in a place where you can't provide for yourself. But
Yeah.
like going back to what you said, that's almost like, well, you're kind of assuming we don't know how the world works. Or like,
Yeah.
I think like a big thing is for me is like, just because you aren't entrepreneurial
Yeah.
doesn't mean I'm not.
Absolutely.
I think like if someone assumes like, if you have a family of people who just, go to college, get a degree, never started a business, then for you to be like, well, I am going to start a business doing music. That's crazy. That totally came out of left field. It's like
Yeah.
a curveball. You know what I mean? So absolutely. Do you think? I mean, I guess sort of going back to the original question. Why do we push these creative things off? So we talked about like society, family, friends, and stuff. I know it's something I have struggled with for a while, and
Yeah.
I would be happy to delve into that. But have you yourself struggled with like, you want to pursue this, but maybe you have doubts, like whether it's financial or logistical, or like, have you found yourself pushing things off?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, like there was just a lot of creative outlets, not just with music, but I growing up, I always loved fantasy shows, sci-fi. It was just always my favorite things to do. So one thing that I just got into for a while was writing a book. Like just for
Oh yeah,
fun.
yeah, yeah. No
Just for
way.
fun. Like I was making the jokes like maybe I can send it to Netflix and it'll be produced as a Netflix adaptation, then I'm a millionaire. Like all just like the fun
Yeah,
running. Like obviously that'd be awesome, but I would want to finish it and actually do that because you never know. But then like just the people getting in your ear, like I said, like you tell people you want to make music, you tell people you want to write a book, you want to tell people that you're doing this, that, and the other, then for one, it's just not taken seriously at all. Then even just like the personal doubts too, because obviously when you're doing something that you care about, no matter what people are going to say, there's going to be that nervous feeling because you care
sure.
about it's important to you. It's just how we as humans work.
Yeah,
So having that already nervous feeling, then other people adding on to that, then like you said, like the financial stuff, like the economy is in shambles right now.
oh
So
yeah,
having to try to figure out how I'm gonna make these things happen realistically. Like I was lucky that I was able to give enough, and I at the time I was younger, so I didn't have too many financial responsibilities I had to take care of. So when I got my first job when I was 16, I was able to put all of my paycheck into getting me a Mac and getting
sure.
me this Scarlet bundle, so I could actually kind of start diving into everything, getting me a MIDI keyboard. So I was able to do all that, but I was 16 at the time. And I know that for one, the economy was a lot better, but now, like for adult wise, you have rent to pay, you have bills to pay. If you have kids to take care of, not let alone all the expenses that they take at any age, whether it's diapers when they're little or putting them in ballet and football and all the little expenses and fees that that take, let alone
Yeah.
just gas driving back and forth.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
there's definitely just been a lot of personal creative blocks and holds. And like I said, I just put a big pause on kind of like that more creative side so I could learn my job with lifestyle now.
Sure, sure. And like I mean, I think that's great. I think to an extent though, and I'm sure you would agree, there's kind of comes a point where like even though life gets in the way and things come up, you kind of have to just be like, okay, you know what, life is gonna get in the way, and because it's just gonna happen, like I'm still gonna press forward. I'm
Oh,
still gonna learn.
absolutely.
I'm still gonna do this. Yeah,
Absolutely.
because I have noticed that has happened in my life, especially recently.
Hmm.
And I mean, you and I were talking about this for a while. It's like, well, how do you have a full time job, married, a dog, trying to figure out how I'm going to get a house, living situation,
Absolutely.
etc. Thinking about future family planning and stuff. It's like, how do you balance all of that? Oh, and plus we do we work on like meal prep and like go to the gym and stuff. So
Absolutely. Just so those life things that you need to take care of just to be
exactly.
balanced and healthy.
Yeah, and then there's
Then,
like family,
yeah,
visiting them. So you and I had talked about that, but before that, I think like my issue because I've really let life get in the way. I've sort of told this story before, but like same thing with you. It's like friends, family, etc. really have a hard time with what it is we're trying to do, and
yeah,
therefore discourage it. So I've definitely felt that, and then when you do try to do it, then you're not like that great at it, which is discouraging as well. You
absolutely.
have people all around you telling you not to, and then you get started and you're not that great. And you have to learn to take constructive criticism and such. So all that happened, financial issues get in the way. But I think with me, the turning point was like I'm out on my own, and now I feel like I've got my own space. I sort of have more control of what's around me, but also there's like a fire underneath me. It's like, man, like I'm
Yeah,
getting old and like time's going on, and I don't want to work like in a corporate setting my entire life.
yeah,
So I really need to like get to work if things are going to change. So yeah, I guess like with that, so let's talk about like overcoming
yeah.
this like pushing stuff off. Oh, you know what? Actually, before that, there is one more thing I want to mention. I forgot. There's one more thing I wanted to mention. I got to the point in my life where like I don't know if you've ever felt this, Marcel, but like you almost feel sick to your stomach or like in your head or your heart if you're not doing what you want to be doing, which in my
Oh,
case is music.
absolutely.
Dude, you feel that?
Absolutely, man. Because, like I said, like it's just what you want to do. This is what you're passionate about. So, and it sucks because it's getting kind of undermined with things that we want to do. And
Yeah.
like, no matter what, if it's not just a set job, if it's not you being a lawyer, it's not you wanting to be a doctor. Like, it's not just even with the media field. Like when people tell people that want to play sports professionally that they're putting all this effort in, they're putting all this work in, then they're just not, they're saying like, hey, this isn't going to work out. You need to find another job. You need to do this. You need to do that. Then they stop doing what they love. That just kind of takes part of yourself away. Because
Yeah.
even if, even in the scenario that being a professional artist doesn't work out, even in being in a scenario that your hoop dreams don't work out, it's
Sure.
still something that you love doing.
Yeah.
So it sucks that it gets taken away from you in that aspect, or you just don't
Yeah.
fully succeed it. So then you feel like part of you, which it is gone now.
Absolutely.
Because obviously we want to make this into a career, but just fundamentally it's what we love to do.
Yeah.
This is a part of me. This is what my number one hobby. This is what helps me get up in the morning. This makes me excited. This makes me this, that, and the other, because especially in today's society, a lot of people don't have that. So the people that do have that, we need to hold on to it for dear life, because half the people now today are scrolling on TikTok, Instagram Reels, whatever it is for hours, and they're not doing great because they're not having those creative outlets. They're not having those passions,
Yeah.
those goals. So even though this may not work out in the long run, obviously being realistic, because not everybody can be a famous artist, not everybody can make it to
Sure.
the NBA. Obviously we
Sure.
shouldn't just keep that mindset.
No.
Absolutely not, because it's not going to hinder you. Don't let it take away the drive that you have, because we're going to put 110% into it at
Yeah.
all times, because this is what we love to do. But until like that middle part or anything that's going on, it's still what we love to do. And I feel like
Mhm.
that's another aspect that comes out too, is because when people take all these things so seriously, it can make it less fun. Like you talk
So
about
yeah, good
so many,
point.
yeah, absolutely. Because you talk about so many people. I grew up doing like learning music and sports and just everything. I was always just a person that like loved doing things. And I know when people that love doing art and they want to be a professional artist to some degree, but then they put so much pressure on themselves, and when stuff's not working out, they're like, okay, let me just drop it, or I feel discouraged, or I just don't like doing this because it's became too worky.
Yeah.
So then it kind of takes the fun out of it. Same with sports, same with this. If you're constantly just working, you don't see the fun of it anymore. So it's still just kind of having that same mindset with it. Obviously, you want to push yourself, obviously, you want to grow, but don't go into a mentality that will take the fun out of it.
Yeah.
Because I think that you got into this because this is what you love doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I totally agree with that. And to my point, what I was going to say about how that all led to my story is there was a point. So I'm glad you relate on the whole like feeling sick or whatever if you're not doing
Yeah.
what you want to. How that relates to my story is it got to a point where I was so like I felt like I was pushing it off so much all the time every day because it like made me uncomfortable. It made me feel sick if I wasn't doing it. I'm
Yeah.
like just go away. And I kind of felt like there was a voice in my head telling me like, all right, in that case you have a choice to make. Either leave this all behind and just accept that you're not meant to do it, or do pursue, this nagging feeling inside you every day. Um, because again, it was like, man, I either have to get rid of this or get in control of it because it's like really affecting me, like
Yeah.
mentally, and you know what I mean.
That
So
lukewarm middle just is not going to be able to sustain you, because that back and
exactly,
forth, that constant, it just creates more emotions. So I don't think
yeah,
that, obviously, like you said, there's two outlets, but obviously you don't want to drop it. But also being in that
yeah,
middle space isn't great for you either, because then you're in
yeah,
that constant back and forth.
yeah. So I decided to pursue it full time, and here we are. It's leading to the podcast, beats, freelance composing for commercials and films and stuff. And you've heard some of my stuff. We'll
Yeah.
continue to go into that more as the show progresses, and I want to show you some other stuff too while you're here.
Okay,
But
sweet.
um, so Here's kind of the last point or question I want to ask you. Being that we've both had these setbacks, what things have worked for you avoiding complacency? Has anything worked? And then, what would you recommend? Like, what is a message to our listeners, to creatives? But first, what's helped you with complacency, if anything, or maybe you're discovering still?
Honestly, I'm still in the discovering path. Like I'm still young, but
Yeah.
also a big thing, like I was talking about before, I feel like it's just remembering like even though you get discouraged with what's going on, even though you're starting out, nobody that's starting out anything is going to be the best at it or great at it or all this stuff. It's a learning process where that's just how things go.
Yeah.
So when those discouraging times hit because you don't know what you're doing, it take the time to be like, okay, I'm having fun with this, like making sure that you're still having fun, because even if you're having fun at something, you don't care that you're not doing great at it or you're still learning process and all that stuff. It's when we
Yeah.
take things like so seriously that it takes the fun out of it. So then we're putting so much more pressure on ourselves, because obviously we want to get better, but if all we're feeling is pressure and not that we're having fun, then it's harder to do it.
That's fair. That's
So
fair.
it's definitely kind of just making sure obviously taking it seriously to the point, because there's a balance, there's that middle
Yeah.
that I feel like everybody knows that I'm talking about, but taking it seriously enough that you're still putting that effort into learning and doing what you love, but still making sure you're still having fun with it, which is a big part that I feel like a lot of people lose, and that's what makes them more discouraged, because it's like I said, there's just a million things against you. There's your own negative thoughts, there's the outside negative thoughts, whether the people that are close to you or just the haters on social media that will scroll through just because they're angry and want to be angry at somebody else and bring somebody down with them,
Yeah.
or the financial stuff, or all this. Like we have 85 million different blockers that can stop them. So don't have, but we can still push through that if we know, like, okay, we're still having fun with this. This is still something that we're doing, and nobody can take away that fun from you besides yourself.
Yeah. I mean, that's great, man. I love that. So what would you say then to those who, like, they are very serious about making this a career, and you have to work very hard, diligently, consistently.
Absolutely.
But you also say, like, don't get too serious, like, still have fun. Like, where's that happy middle, in your opinion, if you want to do this
Yeah.
full time?
Yeah. I would say that the happy middle kind of depends on the person, because there's different thresholds. Like obviously taking it so serious is that person's fun. Like it's the you look at
Hmm.
the professional NBA players, they took this game so seriously that they got to that point and that seriousness was fun for them. You look at the professional artists, that seriousness was fun for them. So we're all different. We all have our different thresholds, and you can go to anywhere. You can go somebody that's just making beats for fun, that's just having that time, and even though they're not taking seriously, they're having that fun.
Yeah.
So I feel like the threshold is just different for everybody, and kind of just like knowing yourself, knowing where you're at. Are you more of a serious person that has fun while they're doing stuff,
Yeah.
or are you like just a goofy happy-go-lucky person that has that serious side to them when they need to get stuff done?
Yeah.
What's like, so it's, I feel like it's your own personal middle, so it's kind of like that self-diagnostic, giving yourself a week to a month of just being like, okay, so what's my serious level? How does my brain operate? Do I need to bunker down, knock this out, and that's my fun for me? This is what keeps me going. This is where I'm at, or am I taking it so serious that I need to take a step back and be like, okay, I'm not going to think about showing anybody this. I'm not going to think about doing this. I'm not going to think about doing that. I'm not going to think about work. All I'm going to do is sit down. I'm going to open up whatever plugin I'm using. I'm gonna go through Looperman and just go through the
You know
different
about
loops. I know
Looperman?
about Looperman always. I'll just
Yes.
go through just to get like if I get in a lull, I'll just go through and just kind of listen to what other people make and get kind of like inspired.
Yeah.
Like just a different kind of source of information. If I can't think of anything, then I can be like, okay, let me just see the melodies that some people are making right now. And I can be like, okay, for one, like it can inspire you, but it can also be like, oh, I absolutely love this. So then
Yeah.
obviously, like I know everybody has their different workflows. You can talk to the person, get that loop for yourself, or just like make like something similar. Like, okay, this is a great layout, but I want to make this my own. I love this beginning melody, but then let me make this my own. Then not thinking about showing anybody, not what your parents are gonna think, not what anybody this is gonna think. This is your own personal project. You're not thinking about career wise. You're not thinking about anything other than this is great. I love doing this. I'm having fun doing this. This
Hmm.
is productive of me. This is what a great outlet for me is.
Yeah.
Just having fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It's honestly, that's the only way to do it sustainably for a while.
Yeah,
Because, like you said, you get too sour, too bitter about it, too tunnel vision. Yeah,
absolutely.
you start to lose your way. You get burned out. So that's
Absolutely.
great. I think for me, what you said really stuck out about like maybe you're somebody who's like goofy and then you get serious when you have to get stuff done, or maybe it's the opposite where like you're serious but then you're goofy when you just want to like do something for fun.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the latter. I'm that second one where
Okay.
I am very serious about it, but I'm learning to like loosen up.
Yeah.
That's why like I just like working on one-off projects with people like just to kind of like, see what happens, just no expectations. And
Yeah.
honestly, it usually turns out to be like a great song.
Absolutely.
Like that song that Clay and I worked on that I showed
Hmm.
you.
That was great, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, thank you, thank you. We were just like goofing around, like, hey man, grab the guitar, I'll mic you up, let me play the piano, and like if something happens, it happens. If not, and then he had pre-writtens, I could write the verse, and then it just sort of came together. So
Absolutely. And you can even like I know like a lot of artists talk about too, like they'll make like one of their most popular songs in 5 minutes at 4 in the morning when they're
oh
just being
man,
goofy with their friends. Or I think
yeah,
um you can fact check me on this. We can look at it after, but I'm pretty sure that Drake said they came up with the lyrics for "Nice for What" while he was on the toilet. So
I believe it.
just having
I mean,
having the time to kind of just do those things and just like obviously you're not being very serious when you're using the restroom. So just having those creative flows
yeah,
and just like, okay, this is great. Let me just do this. Then
yeah,
when it comes out great and you're starting seeing the finished project, then you can be like, okay, let me start thinking about putting this out
it
there.
motivates you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah, yeah. It's so true. I've worked on so many projects where I'm like, let me just test this, and then you realize, is this song worth finishing or not?
Absolutely, yeah.
Some projects I am a believer are probably really not worth your time, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I
Not,
think most are, but not all.
yeah, not everything that you make is gonna be a hit. Not
No.
everything's gonna be the even your favorite thing that you worked on. So
Yeah. Well, man, it's been great to have you on the show, man. And really
yeah, happy to be
refreshing
here.
to shake it up. I hope you listen back to this episode in the future and you're like, hey, like that was my perspective then, or at least you get to see where you were with your career and stuff, and maybe you're listening to this in like 5 or 10 years and you're like, man, like I'm an engineer now, or I'm a composer, or like a singer songwriter, and you're like,
Yeah.
I remember that kid who was just trying to figure things out, man. I really hope this is like a time capsule for you.
Oh, it absolutely will be, man. I'll make sure I always have the link. I'll keep it in my back pocket. And when I feel like I've kind of hit that next step, go see what 19-year-old Marcel was saying versus
Yeah, man.
23-year-old Marcel. And I'll text you. We'll make another one of these. And every 5 years we'll do a recheck.
Yeah, yeah, that's dope. That's dope. So, in closing, do you have anything to share with, like I said, the creative community? Any message you would say, artists, engineers, producers?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I just want to reiterate again, like the biggest thing that I've kind of talked about was making sure you're having fun because fun opens up that creative side of you. When you're being serious, when you're just all work, you're stuck in a cubicle at work, that 9 to 5, that more serious mindset. Like
Yep.
everybody knows that when you're like in a cubicle at work, what are you doing? You're having a blast, you're having a pizza party. No, it's when you're out doing whatever, just letting the mind just kind of flow. Whatever, you're out with your friends, you're with family, you're playing cornhole at a family event and you're just making jokes and having fun. Like that's when that more you creative side of you comes out, I feel like. So obviously
Yeah.
just taking that time to be like, let me just cut off my brain. What is my brain saying to me? Not let me make my brain say something,
Yeah.
Because obviously when we're having blocks and all that stuff to like take the time, put the effort in to find inspiration. But sometimes when we're just naturally creative people, that inspiration comes to us.
Yeah.
So just taking the time to silence all the stresses, all the worries, everything else that's going out, and just being able to have fun, get loose, do
Yeah.
whatever it is. Because like you may want to produce, but maybe you're not in the right mindset. So you're like, okay, let me just go out and see a movie. Let me go hang out with friends. Let me just do something that I know is gonna make me loosen up.
Yeah.
Then maybe halfway through, when you're with your friends, you're out watching that movie, you have just a melody come to your head
Yeah.
naturally. and just like you're get that natural flow going versus when you're stuck in your cubicle, not having anything, any inspiration, not anything flowing. So
Yeah.
having fun, I feel like, is the best motivation for creativity.
Man, I love that. I'm going to apply it to my work now.
Nice, nice.
More and more as I can. Well, thank you, Marcel. It's been great.
Glad to be here.
Fist bump.
Fist bump.
I know y'all can't hear that, but fist bump.
They saw it. They pictured it.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for being on the show, man. Guys, any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them below.
I'll be checking in to see if there's any questions for me.
Oh, he will. And then we'll have to have you back.
Oh, absolutely.
Answer those
I'll answer the questions. Absolutely.
Yeah, any questions, comments, concerns, check the show notes for ways to reach out. Yeah, it's been great. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Marcel.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We will see you guys in the next one. Take
See
care.
ya.